Den ersten Vortragenden vorstellen, das ist Dimitri Jemarov. Er ist Chefentwickler bei JetBrains für PyCharm. PyCharm ist eine neue IDE für Python und die möchte er uns jetzt gerne mal vorstellen. Bitte schön.
Guten Morgen, vielen Dank für die Vorstellung. So, jetzt muss ich nichts mehr über mich selbst sagen. Ich komme aus der Münchner Niederlassung von der Firma JetBrains und ich werde über PyCharm erzählen. Aber leider reicht mein Deutsch für den ganzen Vortrag nicht. So now I will switch to English and do the rest of the presentation in English. But in the end, you can ask questions in English or German. Hopefully, I will understand either of them equally well. So what's PyCharm? PyCharm is an IDE for Python and Django, and we are calling it the most intelligent IDE for Python and Django. And I hope that during the presentation and the demos, you will understand why we are giving it that name. So PyCharm is based on the IntelliJ platform. So IntelliJ IDEA is our lead product. This is a Java IDE. And it has been in development since the year 2000, so PyCharm essentially builds on 11 years of IDE development experience, so we know how to do some things right in terms of development environments. The first version of PyCharm was released about a year ago, and now we are working on version 2.0, and it's currently available as early access preview, which means that you can download development builds and try them for free and give us feedback, what works, what needs improvement, and so on and so forth. So now let's really quickly run through some of the features in PyCharm. So there are many of them, so this is just a glance. And I've highlighted the new things that we have added in the version 2. So first of all, when you think about why someone would use an IDE for Python, people talk about debugger, code completion, refactoring, running tests with a nice interface, and of course all of this is supported in PyCharm. Inspections or the static code analysis is also a very useful feature. PyCharm is, of course, cross-platform. It works on Linux, Windows, Mac, whatever. It supports all the popular flavors of Python, including PyPy, and we have added Python support in version 2. For those of you who will migrate to PyCharm from other editors, it's very important to note that we have a key map for Emacs, and we have a plugin that does fairly sophisticated VI comment emulation. So if you are switching from Vim to PyCharm, you will feel right at home if you install this plugin. The version control integration supports Git Mercurial's version per force, all clear here. PyCharm also features extensive web development support. So we support both the traditional stack with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and also the modern version of the same stack with Haml, Sass, and CoffeeScript. And CoffeeScript is also new in version 2. For the server side of the web development, we of course support Django and Google App Engine as already mentioned. And as for the template languages, beside Django templates, we have added support for Mako and Jinja 2 in the new version. So this is just a list of some things that didn't really fit into any of the previous buckets. So we have database integration. You can run queries from within an IDE. You can view the structure of your tables. You can deploy files to your production system using FTP or SFTP right from PyCharm. You can integrate with issue trackers and see the list of tasks assigned to you. We support ePyDoc and Sphinx and restructured text, and you can edit restructured text in PyCharm and generate nicely looking documentation with Sphinx without leaving the IDE. We had code coverage support, and there are other things not mentioned here, like, for example, IPython support or whatever. Now, just a brief mention about the licensing. So PyCharm is a commercial product. We offer 3 flavors of licenses. So commercial licenses are for companies, personal licenses are for individuals, and academic licenses are for students or research institutions or stuff like that. And if you are working on an open source project, you can get a license of PyCharm for free. And of course, it's also free to use the early access preview builds before the final version is released. And I'd like to specifically note that we have a discount at the moment, so you can buy a personal license for PyCharm for half price until October 15th. So you still have some time to try PyCharm after the conference and get your license at a discount if you like the IDE. So website, blog. In the blog, we announce new versions, new releases, describe some of the features and so on and so forth. Follow us on Twitter. And now enough talking, let's look at the product itself. So I have prepared a series of demos here, so we'll start with showing how the PyCharm intelligence work helps you in day-to-day writing of the code. So now we have some stub of some code, and we'll now use PyCharm to flesh it into something more resembling working. So those parameters are unused, and what are we going to do with them? We are going to create instance attributes out of them, and with PyCharm it's very easy. So just 3 keyboard shortcuts, and you see it's very handy. Now that we have a product class, let's see how we can describe it. So here we are going to print the product.name, and you see that even we haven't specified the type of the product parameter. PyCharm has guessed that it's probably the product class and has offered the fields of the product class here in the completion list. And of course, this also works for the description. And besides relying on this name-based type guessing, you can also specify the types specify the types using epydoc or restructured or Sphinx parameters. And PyCharm actually helps you with that. So you can invoke this insert the docstring stub intention, and it generates essentially a docstring template for you. And you can specify the description of the parameter and also its type. And once you have done that, the completion will work even if you rename the parameter to something else. And note that if you rename the parameter, it will also go and correctly update the docstring, which is also very handy. But now, so print p dot, we still get the completion list. Now let's try to create a function. So let's create a method on the product class that will print its description, print p.fullname. So the method doesn't actually exist, and PyCharm highlights that, and it makes us very easy for us to actually create the method just with another keyboard shortcut, add method fullname. And we return self.name plus a space plus self.description. And concatenating strings like that is not actually very good practice. So PyCharm again helps us convert this code into something more easy to maintain. So there is an intention that will convert that will replace this string concatenation with string formatting. And so again, this looks much more maintainable and cleaner. So you see that PyCharm's quick fixes can help you write idiomatic Python code very easily. Now let's look at another feature, which is refactoring support. So right now we have this function, which is a very trivial example of solving a quadratic equation, just like in school. And the first thing that we see when you open the file is this pop-up, offering us to import the sqrt function because it's not imported. And we choose where to import it from, and PyCharm automatically adds the correct import statement. And we see that right here there is some code duplication, some expressions are like copy-pasted, and we can refactor this code to extract the duplication a little bit. So we press the keyboard shortcut for introduce variable, select the expression that we want to make a variable, and PyCharm immediately notices that the expression occurs more than once, and it offers us to replace both of the occurrences of the expression immediately. And now we can enter the variable name, and we see that the code has now less duplication. But still, this function has a problem because it actually does two things at once. It solves the solution and prints out the results. So it's probably a good idea to extract a method to make these two activities separate. So we now select a bunch of code and press the extract method keyboard shortcut, and we see that PyCharm has automatically determined the parameters that need to be passed to the method and the output variables. And of course, in Python, it's not a problem at all to return multiple values from the method. So the method is called solve, and now you see that PyCharm has inserted a call to the solve method here, and the code is now much cleaner. And by the way, it's probably a good time to show the version control integration features of PyCharm. So you see that the project, so this small project is in a Git repository, and so PyCharm automatically tracks the modifications that I perform and shows the list of the changed files, and allows me to view the diffs very easily. Shows the history of my work on the project. So here is the Git log tab, and shows all the commits that are there. So not too many of them in this project, but anyway. And of course, you can perform all sorts of operations like pushing pulling, merging branches, and so on. And most of the version control features have the same UI regardless of which specific version control system you use. So it's very easy to switch between them and learn switch to a new one if the need arises. So before we switch to the next demo, I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of static code analysis when working on PyCharm, on Python code. So the static code analysis, which is offered by PyCharm and also by tools like Pylint or PyFlakes, it's not really likely to find errors in your production code. At least if your code is well tested, then the static code analysis might find some corner cases which you haven't thought of. But the main benefit of the analysis is during day-to-day work. So as you have just written a piece of code and made a small mistake, tools like PyCharm, which do real-time code analysis, can highlight this immediately for you so that you can correct it before you run the test and before you have to figure out why the tests have failed and how exactly your code needs to be corrected in order for the test to pass. And having said that, let's look at some specific common problems that are found by PyCharm static code analysis. So first of all, this is a very obvious thing. This is an unused import statement. And if you open it like any open source project in PyCharm, you will find that plenty of import statements in the code are actually unused because nothing keeps track of those, and it's very easy to have them left over for some refactoring. The second example shows a type mismatch error. So it's not very clear on this projector, sorry about that, but you see that it's highlighted as a warning. So PyCharm actually knows which types can be used together on binary operators, and it knows that in Python it's not allowed to concatenate a string with a non-string object, and so it highlights this as an error. In the second example, PyCharm shows that in this case the variable is not always assigned because the sequence that is passed to the method can be empty, and if the sequence is actually empty, you will get an error in this case because the variable was not initialized. This third example is probably the most familiar to Django developers because it's very easy to make this kind of a mistake inside Django urls.py. So instead of having multiple tuples separated with a comma, so a tuple of tuples, you can accidentally, if you omit the comma, Python will interpret that as an attempt to call a tuple. And this is not allowed in Python, of course. And PyCharm notices this and highlights this as an error, so tuple object is not callable. Okay, moving on to the next demo. So now I would like to show the PyCharm test runner and some of the code navigation features that is offered. So here we have a very simple unit test, and we can run this with a few keyboard shortcuts. And you see that the test has failed. And in the failure report, it's very easy to see what exactly the difference is between the expected results and the actual ones. You can click on this to get this nice pop-up showing what the difference is. And of course, the stack traces are all clickable, so you can click on any point in the stack trace to jump to the place in the code where the error actually occurred. Now let's look at some code navigation features. So probably one of the most used keyboard shortcuts in PyCharm is go to class. So you press a keyboard shortcut, you enter a class name or part of a class name, TC, for example. This matches test case and test code and anything that has capital letters T and C in it. Let's jump to the test case class. So you see it's very fast and very convenient to navigate through code. And when you are looking at a class, it's very easy to jump to its to all the classes that extend it or implement it. And of course, the go to definition keyboard shortcut is also a very important one. So you can Control-click on anything or press Control-B on anything and jump to the definition of the place that is called in the code. Another very important navigation action is find usages. So we see that here we are calling this assert items equal method, and we can very easily find all the places in the code where it's referenced from. So here we specify the scope, project or project and libraries, or whatever. And we see that here are all the usages of the assert items equal method, both in the Python standard library and in our project. So the next demo, in the next demo, I'm going to briefly show the debugger. So there is really nothing very fancy going on here. Just essentially typical debugger functionality, the list of local variables, stepping through code, breakpoints, watches, inspecting the variables, all the stuff that you usually do in any debugger. And I'd like to highlight one specific handy feature that is very helpful. So here you see that we have a chained method call. So we are calling two functions in one place. And if we regularly step through the code, then we'll get first to the full name and second to the asLower function. And it's not something what we need. Sometimes it's not what we want. So we want to jump to the outer function directly. And in PyCharm, we can do that by pressing the Smart Step Into keyboard shortcut. It shows us the list of all functions that are invoked in the current line. And we can select the function that we want to step into. And so you see that we are immediately in this function. It's also worth noting that PyCharm has a possibility to execute, so it has essentially a Python interpreter embedded right into the debugger. So you can evaluate different kinds of expressions right here in the debugger, and you can use code completion here. So it's not a unique feature of PyCharm, but it's still very handy. Okay, so this was the demo of some features for pure Python development. And now let's switch to a Django project and have a brief look at what PyCharm does for Django. So the starting point of every Django project is, of course, the urls.py file, which shows all the definitions of all the places that you can go to inside the web application. And PyCharm actually makes it very easy to navigate from this urls.py file to the views referenced from this file. So again, all that it takes is the Ctrl-B shortcut on this detail line, for example. And here we go into the detail view inside views.py. Very handy. And it's also very easy to jump from here to the template. So before we do that, let's note that here we are building this latest poll list, and we are passing this parameter to the template itself. And so now we press the navigation keyboard shortcut to jump to the template. So, and here you see that you will see that PyCharm recognizes the passed variable and offers it in keyboard completion, in the code completion. So you see that it's visible here. And also PyCharm has some snippets that make it very easy to create code blocks inside templates. So for example, a for loop. So I press for, press the expand keyboard shortcut. PyCharm now shows the variable that I'm passing to the variable, to the template, allows me to choose the name for it. And here inside the loop, I can print some of the values. And note that PyCharm also recognizes the type of the variable. So it shows the correct field names for the poll here. So it knows that the poll list contains polls and polls have questions, and you see that it's actually quite smart. Of course, the code completion works also for tag names. So for example, we can make this template extend another one. Again, code completion for template names, all very handy. And once we have done that, we see that this variable contains, this template contains some blocks. So block for the title and block for the body. And it's very easy to provide contents for those blocks in the inheriting template. So just press block, tab, and it automatically fills the list of blocks that we can fill here. Block title, and block for the body. Just I will move this piece of code inside the block. And now we can show another feature of PyCharm, which is the template debugger. So with PyCharm, we can actually put the breakpoints right inside of your template files, run this on the debugger. So it takes a little while to start up. So, and now we are stopped on a breakpoint, and the breakpoint is actually inside the template. And here we can examine the variables that have been passed to the template. So here is the latest poll list, and if we step into the for loop, we also can see the current poll. So again, you see all the values and all the stuff inside it. And we actually, of course, we can also step inside Python code from the Django template. So that concludes my demo. And now you can ask questions in German or English, or I'm here during the entire conference, so if you have some questions after that, after you try PyCharm for yourself, perhaps you can find me around and ask me whatever you want to know about PyCharm. And thanks for the attention.
Gibt es Fragen? Ja?
Very simple question. What does the platform support it?
I've said it's fully cross-platform, Windows, Linux, and Mac. So it's written in Java, so it works everywhere where Java runs.
Hi, thank you. I was looking on your website and I see you have an open source project license. Is there any difference between the PyCharm offered for this license or the one that's commercial?
No, all the versions of PyCharm have exactly the same functionality.
What type of testing frameworks under Python do you support, apart from unit test?
Unit test, nose tests, py.test, doc test, and we even support something called add test, which you probably didn't know existed, but we still support it. Add test. It's rather handy, actually. It's a nice looking framework.
What is the key combination to go back to the place where you pressed Control B?
Control Alt left. It's actually here on the toolbar. Yes, of course, all the key mappings are configurable, so you can set up a key map that you prefer if you don't like our default key combinations for some reason.
Do you have support for debugging C modules?
No, at the moment we don't have any support for C languages, for the C language at all. I hope that sometime in a year or so we will have that, but it's still pretty remote plans and I cannot give any promises.
Hello. Do you have a list of refactorings that you can offer, something we can look up somewhere? Or another follow-up question to that is, do you have refactorings across multiple files as well?
Yes, of course we do refactor. We have refactorings across multiple files, and so for example, so let me show you a nice example.
I'm more interested in the more complex refactorings across multiple files, not only simple replacements, of course.
Well, so I would say that renaming Django view and updating the urls.py automatically is pretty complicated as it goes. So you see that it automatically goes and updates all the usages, the function name and the urls.py. And as for the list of refactorings, you can find them in the refactor menu. So rename, copy, move, extract method, introduce variable, field constant, push, pull, extract superclass. And of course, we are going to add more refactorings in the coming versions. So like inline method or introduce parameter are likely the next ones to appear.
The single most annoying thing I found about PyCharm is that I don't have a place where I can look up all the key maps. Is there, or did I just miss this? Something?
Help, default key map reference. It opens a PDF file that you can print out.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
More questions? Noch mehr Fragen?
What about the configuration of user interface?
What exactly do you mean?
Well, arrangement of frames or.
Yeah, so you can move any tool window to any side of the user interface. You can hide the tool window buttons altogether. So you can press this nice button in the corner. It actually hides all the buttons for the tool window so that they take up less screen space.
But can I place a debugger frame, for example, on top of the
you can float it, yes. So you can press the detach button,
okay.
And it was possible to make it float, but probably, but maybe I'm wrong. You can make the entire debugger window float. So you can, for example, put all this thing on another monitor. You have multiple monitors.
What are your main arguments to convince someone to switch from PyDev to PyCharm?
Well, it's very simple. PyDev is developed by one guy. PyCharm team, the PyCharm team has 4 developers at the moment. So, and PyCharm is a fully supported product by a commercial company, and so it evolved, even though PyDev started much earlier, so we are already beyond the PyDev capabilities, and the distance will increase with the time as the time goes, simply because we are able to put more effort into it.
I have another question. We are already using PyCharm, and what I find annoying is that tabs, when I have multiple files opened, are just sort of random order, and I have trouble to find my files, my tabs. Can one control that by sorting them by name or something?
Well, our idea is that you don't really have to hunt around your tabs or look through them. So instead, you can use different navigation keyboard shortcuts. So for example, Control-Tab to switch between the tabs, or Control-E to get a pop-up with all the recent files that you have edited. And you can actually, for example, I don't know, type the part of the name here, and it's also very handy.
All right, okay.
And another option is to put the editor tabs in a single row. So it makes it a bit less.
Yeah, and there really I would like to see them ordered, if that's possible. Maybe as an idea for the next release to show that as an option.
What do you mean? So here is the direct directory name of the file I have opened. And there's also another handy feature that you can see right here. So if we have multiple files with the same name in the project, so for example, we have multiple urls.py files here, you can see that the disambiguating part of the directory name right here in the tab title. So it's very easy to see which file is which and not get lost in them. Yeah, and by the way, if you just hover your mouse over this, then you also get the full path.
Okay, ich denke, dann haben wir alles gehört über PyCharm. Wir kommen jetzt gleich zum nächsten Vortrag.
Noch einmal vielen Dank.
Wir wechseln kurz ein paar Minuten und dann geht's weiter.